When you've been with someone for 7 years, you start to believe you know them inside out. That was me, 32 years old, married to Jenna, 29, the woman I thought I'd grow old with. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. At least, I thought we were. We used to share everything: dinners, weekend hikes, dreams about the future. But slowly, quietly, things started to shift. It began after she got promoted to a new project team at work. Her new manager, Marjus, strange name, even stranger vibe, became a frequent topic of conversation at dinner. At first, I didn't think much of it. She was excited, motivated. But then came the subtle changes. Late meetings, extra networking events, locked phone screens, and whispers in the hallway. The laughter we used to share faded into silence. When I brought up my concerns, Jenna would smile tightly and say, "It's just work, babe." But the warmth in her voice was gone. Her eyes didn't meet mine. One evening, I cooked her favorite, lemon herb salmon with roasted potatoes. She came home 2 hours late. No text, no call. When I asked what happened, she said, "Team drinks ran late," and disappeared into the shower before I could say anything else. That night, I lay in bed listening to the water run, a knot forming in my chest. Something was changing, and deep down, I already knew it wasn't just work. About a month after those late nights started piling up, my best friend Caleb was hospitalized. Appendicitis. Emergency surgery. It was sudden and honestly terrifying. We'd been like brothers since college. I told Jenna right away, thinking she'd want to visit him with me. She always liked Caleb. He even emceed our wedding. But she barely blinked. Said she was swamped at work and that Marjus was pressuring everyone to meet an impossible deadline. I let it slide. Stress happens. Still, I went alone that evening. Brought Caleb his favorite energy drinks. Cracked some old jokes. He was groggy but glad to see me. What threw me off was what he said just before I left. "Tell Jenna I said thanks for the text. Didn't expect her to bail on dinner after last week." I paused. "What dinner?" I asked. He looked confused. "The one we were all gonna have. You, me, and her." She said she'd check her schedule. I didn't remember her ever mentioning it. Neither did I get that invite. That night, I checked Jenna's calendar, the shared one we barely used anymore. Nothing was marked. But I remembered what she'd said earlier. She had a team strategy night with Marjus. That night, she came home buzzing, not from alcohol, but from something else. Her cheeks were flushed, and she had a new blouse I hadn't seen before. Tag still in the trash. Expensive, not her usual style. I asked her how the strategy night went. She smiled at the wall behind me and said, "Productive." Then she changed the subject. That word hung with me. Productive. Not for work. Not for trust. Just productive for whatever it was she wasn't telling me. That's when I started wondering how long she'd been feeding me these little lies. And worse, how long I'd been swallowing them whole. I wish I could say I found the first message by accident. But the truth is, I was looking. That night, after she fell asleep, I just stared at her. I watched her breathe, tucked under our navy blue comforter. Her hair sprawled across the pillow like nothing was wrong. Like everything was fine. But my gut was screaming. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I reached for her phone. I knew her passcode. It hadn't changed in years. Her birth month and our wedding date. 092418. It unlocked. At first, it was clean. Too clean. Her texts with Marjus were unusually dry. Professional. But that's when I realized she had hidden most of their conversations. She'd muted their thread. I checked the hidden archive in her WhatsApp. That's where I found it. The first message. "Marjus, still thinking about the way you look today? That red blouse is going to ruin me. Jenna, shoo, someone might see this. But yeah, I wore it for you." My stomach dropped. I didn't keep reading right away. My hands were shaking too badly. I just sat there, in the dark, watching the woman I married sleep, while my heart felt like it was splitting in two. That blouse. She told me she bought it for a client pitch. That same red blouse she wore the night she skipped dinner with Caleb and me. Suddenly, every moment from the last few weeks started replaying in my head. The perfume I didn't recognize, the new lingerie tucked in the back of her drawer, her sudden interest in personal growth podcasts on intimacy. I wanted to believe it was just flirtation. A sick joke. A fantasy that hadn't gone too far. But deep down, I already knew. This wasn't emotional cheating. It was real. It was physical. And I needed proof. I didn't confront her that night. Instead, I put her phone back and lay beside her, pretending to sleep while my mind spiraled into 1,000 worst-case scenarios. I needed to know how deep this betrayal went. And I was done trusting words. From here on out, I'd only trust what I could prove. The next Friday, I set the trap. We hadn't gone out, truly out, in over 2 months. No dinner dates, no spontaneous dessert runs, not even a movie night without her half distracted by urgent emails. So I decided to reclaim something. I texted her in the afternoon while she was still at work. Me. Got us a reservation at Paolo's, 7:30. Just you and me. Like old times. No reply for an hour. Then, Jenna. Oh no, babe, I totally forgot. There's a last-minute team dinner. Margus is making it mandatory. I'll make it up to you this weekend. She added a heart emoji, like it would soften the blow. I didn't answer. Instead, I drove to Paolo's alone. Sat at the bar. Ordered a whiskey neat and stared at the empty seat next to me, imagining her smile. The real one, not the strained version I'd been getting lately. Halfway through the drink, I opened the app one had quietly installed on her car 2 days earlier, a GPS tracker. She didn't know. No one did. At 7:48 p.m., her car pinged across town, nowhere near her office or any restaurant I recognized. It was a quiet street by an industrial park, the kind of place people go when they don't want to be found. I paid for the drink, but didn't leave right away. I just sat there, watching the dot on the map not move. 9:22 p.m. Still there. 10:03 p.m. Her location changed, now heading back toward our neighborhood. She came home around 10:40, hair damp from a quick rinse, wearing a different outfit than she'd left in. I was on the couch pretending to watch TV. Dinner was fine, she said casually, kicking off her heels. Exhausting. I nodded. Did you take any photos? I asked, voice flat. She blinked. Photos? You always take pics at work events. Oh, no, not this time. She lied. Again. That night, I didn't sleep. I scrolled through her Instagram, her colleagues' pages, the restaurant she claimed they went to, nothing. No check-ins. No stories. Just silence. But I wasn't just angry anymore. I was strategic. If she wanted to lie, I'd let her. And I'd collect every lie like a receipt. The next step? Follow the dot myself. In person. I followed her the next Thursday. She said she had an early strategy session and left just after 6 p.m. in a gray blazer and black slacks. The kind of outfit you wear to impress, not present a slideshow. I waited 10 minutes, then got in my own car and pulled up her location on my phone. The dot moved across the city. Not to her office. Not to any cafe or conference center. Just like last time, it led to that isolated industrial strip near the edge of town. But this time I was ready. I parked a street over, killed my engine, and crept forward on foot. The lot was dimly lit, a few scattered lampposts casting lazy shadows. And there, tucked behind a shipping warehouse, was Jenna's car. And another one, sleek, black, and very much not hers. I crouched behind a dumpster, my phone camera already recording, hand trembling but steady enough. Through the windshield, I saw them. Jenna in the passenger seat. Margus behind the wheel. They weren't talking. They were kissing. Her hand was on his chest. His hand was lower. I couldn't watch. Not the whole thing. But I recorded enough to know there was no mistaking it. No talking my way into denial. No possibility that this was just a misunderstanding. I backed away slowly, my feet heavier with every step. I didn't confront them, not yet. I had what I came for, proof. Cold, undeniable evidence. Back in my car, I sat in silence for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, completely numb. The woman I married, the woman who once clutched my hand at my dad's funeral, who swore she'd stand by me through anything, was rolling around in the car of a man I'd never met. A man who managed to rip apart 7 years of trust in less than 7 weeks. I drove home and poured myself a drink. Then another. I rewatched the video just once, then saved it to a hidden folder on my iPad. And for the first time in days, I slept. Not peacefully, but with purpose. Because I wasn't done yet. She thought she was clever. She had no idea what I'd find next. The next morning, while Jenna was in the shower, I remembered something. Her iPad. She rarely used it, but it was still synced to her phone, backup device, she once called it. Left it in her tote bag most of the time, forgotten. While the water ran, I unzipped her bag and pulled it out. It wasn't password protected. She'd never bothered. It opened right away. I tapped through the apps. Nothing suspicious at first. Emails, some Pinterest boards, a few Kindle books. Then I opened the Photos app. And that's when my stomach dropped again. There was a hidden album. Inside, 53 items. Videos. Screenshots. Photos. Mostly blurry or intimate. Some were just of her, Mirror selfies and outfits she never wore around me. But others were worse. There was one clip, 38 seconds, of her and Margus in what looked like a hotel room. She was filming herself in the mirror while he kissed her neck from behind. Her face was flushed. His shirt was unbuttoned. I muted it. I didn't need to hear it. In one photo, he was lying on a bed, shirtless. She was kneeling beside him, holding a glass of wine, grinning like a teenager caught sneaking out. It wasn't even about sex anymore. It was the joy in her face. That was the gut punch. That was the betrayal. But the worst part? There was another man. Not Margus. In two separate clips, Jenna was with a third man, someone I didn't recognize. He had a tattoo down his arm, something foreign-looking. In one video, he was wearing a political t-shirt, a radical one. And Jenna was participating. I don't even want to describe what I saw. It felt like my wife had been living a second life, one I never got access to. A version of her I'd never met and never wanted to meet. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a mistake. This wasn't about love or attention or even cheating. This was about choices. And she'd made a lot of them, over and over, while looking me in the eye each morning like nothing was wrong. I closed the iPad, backed up everything to a flash drive, and put it back in her bag just like I found it. The next time we'd talk, I wouldn't be asking questions. I'd be confronting her with the truth she buried. That night, I told her I wanted to talk. We sat at the kitchen table, the same one where we used to plan vacations, argue about grocery lists, talk about baby names. She looked up from her tea. "What's up?" I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen. The video from the parking lot began to play. Silent, crisp, undeniable. Her face drained of color. She didn't speak, didn't blink. When it ended, I set the iPad down next, open to the gallery I'd seen that morning. "Want to explain these?" Jenna froze. Her lips parted, but no words came. She looked like a statue carved out of shame. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stared at her. "Was it just him?" I asked. She didn't answer. I tapped to the next photo. The one with the tattooed man. "Who is this?" Her voice cracked. "I don't know his real name. It was stupid. It was all stupid." I waited. "I didn't mean for it to go that far," she said, staring at her tea like it could save her. "Margus made me feel wanted. It started small, late talks after work, drinks. He flirted, and I flirted back. It felt innocent. You filmed it, Jenna. You hid it. You weren't seduced, you participated." Tears welled up in her eyes. I didn't know how to stop. I kept thinking I'd come clean. But then you were too deep. I cut in. Too many lies. Too many secrets. And now you're here, with everything exposed. She reached for my hand. I pulled it away. "Do you love him?" I asked, barely above a whisper. "No," she said too quickly. "It wasn't about that. I got lost. I hated myself after every time." I stood up. "Good. Because now you'll have a lot of time to hate yourself." That night, I moved into the guest room and called a lawyer. She begged me not to. Said she'd quit her job, go to therapy, do anything. But something in me had broken. Not just trust, but identity. I wasn't her husband anymore. I was just the fool she betrayed, the placeholder she used until her thrill wore off. And I wasn't going to stay that man a moment longer. I didn't stop at just walking away. Jenna had made her choices. Now it was time to face the consequences. The next morning, I emailed HR at her company. I included screenshots, time-stamped video, a concise explanation. Their manager, Margus, had been engaging in inappropriate sexual relationships with a subordinate, my wife, during work hours, sometimes on company property. I didn't expect a response immediately, but less than 24 hours later, I got one. "Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We are launching an internal investigation immediately. All shared content will be kept confidential, and the involved parties will be placed on administrative leave." 2 days later, Jenna was suspended. She came home in tears, holding a cardboard box filled with her desk items, a framed photo of us, a dead succulent, and some random notebooks. She tried to explain it was a misunderstanding, that HR was being extreme, and Margus was probably going to fix it. But I knew better, and I wasn't done. I found out where Margus lived. I didn't threaten him. I didn't even talk to him. I just dropped a sealed envelope in his mailbox. Inside was a USB stick with the footage, and a note. "You don't get to ruin lives quietly." Later that week, a friend of Jenna's, someone I'd always found distant, but decent, called me. "Hey, just wanted to say, you're not crazy. People knew something was going on. Margus has done this before. One of Jenna's friends, Callie, she got involved with him last year. Got pregnant. He ghosted her and transferred departments. My blood ran cold. I asked for her number. Callie was quiet when I called. At first. But then she broke, told me everything. How Marjus groomed her, promised to leave his fiancée, then abandoned her when things got complicated. She didn't keep the baby. I don't even know why I'm telling you this, she said. Maybe because Jenna wouldn't listen when I tried to warn her. I thanked her and promised not to involve her name. That same week, both Jenna and Marjus were fired. Officially, it was due to violation of ethical conduct and company policy. But unofficially, their reputations were scorched earth. And while Jenna moved into her parents' basement, I started packing my things, not out of grief this time, but with quiet, steady purpose. Because the next chapter was already starting, and I was writing it without her. 2 weeks after her firing, Jenna asked to meet. I almost ignored the message, but some part of me needed closure. Not for her, but for myself. So I agreed to coffee. Public place. Neutral ground. She looked different. No makeup. Hair tied back. No rings. She fidgeted with her cup for a long time before speaking. I just want to say, I'm sorry, she said. Her voice was small, like a stranger's. Not for getting caught, but for what I did. To us. I said nothing. I've started therapy, she continued. Not because I think it'll fix what I did, but because I finally realized I'm broken, and I've been hurting people just to avoid looking at myself. I nodded slowly. You didn't just hurt me. You hurt yourself, too. But the difference is, I didn't deserve it. I know, she whispered, tears streaming. You were good to me. You were home, and I destroyed that. The word hit like a stone in my chest. Home. We sat in silence. She handed me a letter, folded, written in blue ink. I wrote this for you. You don't have to read it. I took it, but didn't promise anything. Before she left, she said one last thing. I don't expect forgiveness, but I do hope someday you find someone who treats your heart like something sacred. Because it is. That night, I did read the letter. It wasn't dramatic. No excuses. No begging. Just regret. Real regret. She admitted to everything, even things I hadn't discovered yet, including one moment when she had nearly confessed but chose not to, because the lie was easier than hurting you. That line stuck with me. She thought the lie was easier than the truth, for me. But it was never about sparing me. It was about protecting herself. I didn't cry. I didn't feel triumphant. Just tired. Tired of cleaning up a mess I didn't make. But something in me shifted that night. The rage was beginning to fade. What replaced it wasn't forgiveness. It was something quieter. Freedom. I officially filed for divorce the following Monday. The process was smooth, smoother than I expected. Jenna didn't contest anything. She signed where she needed to, waived rights to the house, and even agreed to handle the legal fees. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe she just wanted out as much as I did. By the end of the month, I was no longer a husband. No longer her husband. And for the first time in a long time, I could breathe. But breathing wasn't the same as living. The silence in the house was heavy. I'd come home to empty rooms and echoing footsteps. Her laughter, once the soundtrack of our evenings, was now a ghost. But oddly, I wasn't tempted to fill the void. I didn't jump on dating apps. Didn't rush into distractions. I spent evenings walking, cleaning, reading old books I'd meant to finish years ago. I cooked for myself, simple things, not fancy dinners for two. It was healing in its own raw way. One night, while cleaning out the storage closet, I found an old box labeled honeymoon plans. I sat down on the floor, opened it, and found printed itineraries, postcards from Greece we never sent, even a napkin Jenna had doodled on, hearts around our initials. I stared at it for a long time before tossing the entire box into the trash. I wasn't trying to forget, but I was done preserving the ashes of something that already burned down. Some days, memories still crept in. Her smile during game nights, how she used to steal the blankets, the way she'd kiss my neck when I was cooking. But now they didn't sting. They just passed. Like clouds. I wasn't better yet, but I was no longer broken. And for now, that was enough. It had been 3 months since the divorce was finalized when I got a text from an unknown number. Hey, it's Callie. Mind if we talk? I hesitated. The last time we spoke, she was giving me ammunition. I hadn't expected to hear from her again. Still, I agreed to meet, partly out of curiosity, partly because her story had never left me. We met at a quiet cafe. She looked tired, like someone who'd lived too many lives in too few years. But there was strength behind her eyes now, a kind I hadn't seen before. I heard Jenna's been trying to reach out to you again, she said without preamble. I raised an eyebrow. Not directly. She messaged me last week. Apologized. Said she was trying to make amends. I don't know if she's serious or just spiraling, but I thought you should know. I sighed. What did you say to her? I told her I don't trust people who only apologize after they've lost everything. We sat quietly for a moment before she added, I know what it's like to feel used, to be tossed aside, and I know what it's like to keep punishing yourself long after they're gone. There was no flirtation between us, no hidden motives, just two people who'd been broken by the same man, sitting across from each other, recognizing the quiet damage. She slid a small envelope across the table. Thought you might want this. I found it after I moved out. Marjus gave these to several of us. Promises. All lies. Inside was a printed email from Marjus to his manager, begging to cover up an HR complaint from another employee. It didn't matter now. He was long gone, fired and blacklisted. But it felt symbolic, like a final nail in the coffin of everything that had gone wrong. As I walked home that night, I felt something unfamiliar. Gratitude. Not for the pain, but for surviving it. For the lessons learned. The people who showed their true colors. The strength I didn't know I had. My past had tried to call, but this time I didn't answer. About a week after that meeting with Callie, I received something unexpected in the mail. A handwritten envelope addressed in familiar cursive. Jenna's mother. I hadn't heard from her parents since the divorce. We were never especially close, but they always treated me kindly. Her father used to call me the steady one. Her mom used to say I balanced Jenna out. Inside the envelope was a letter. No return address, just a quiet plea on soft blue stationery. Dear Evan, I don't expect this letter to change anything. But as a mother, I feel I owe you a few words that Jenna can't find for herself, or maybe doesn't deserve to say aloud yet. We know what happened. She told us everything. She's been staying with us since the firing. It hasn't been easy. She's not the same. We've seen her fall apart in ways we didn't know were possible. You were good to her. You gave her a life that many women dream of. Kindness, safety, respect. And she threw it away. For something selfish. For something broken inside her. We are sorry. Deeply. We failed you too in some way. Maybe by not raising her to recognize when she had enough. Or by not teaching her how not to ruin something sacred. We won't ask for forgiveness. We just want you to know we're not blind to what she did. And we're not pretending you were the problem. Whatever you do next, we hope it brings you peace. Asterisk with respect and regret. Marilyn and Paul. Asterisk. I read it twice. And then again. It was strange to feel seen after so long of being invisible in my own story. To know that at least someone in her world wasn't hiding behind excuses or softening the truth. I didn't write back, but I didn't throw the letter away either. I kept it in a drawer, not as a token of pain, but as proof that not every ending is scorched earth. Some people do take accountability, even when they're not the ones who betrayed you. And that meant something. Spring came slowly that year. I started spending more time outdoors, walking trails alone. No music, just the crunch of leaves underfoot and the sound of my thoughts finally learning to quiet down. One morning, I passed a small bookstore downtown I hadn't noticed before. Whitaker's Books and Brews. Curious, I stepped inside. It was quiet, sun streaming through dusty windows, the air smelling like old paper and fresh espresso. The owner, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a sarcastic smile, welcomed me like she'd known me for years. I ordered a black coffee and sat by the window flipping through a weathered copy of East of Eden. Something about the place stuck with me. I found myself going back, not every day, but often enough that the barista remembered my order. There was no dramatic moment, no meet cute with a stranger who healed me. It was slower than that. Realer. One of the employees, a woman named Aria, struck up a conversation one day about the book I was reading. She wasn't flirtatious. She was curious, warm, honest in a way that made you forget people could be that way. We talked a little more each time. Sometimes about nothing. Sometimes about everything. One day she said, "You seem like someone who's just now learning how to be alone without feeling lonely." I smiled. Yeah, that's exactly it. Aria nodded. It's a good place to be. Hard, but honest. I didn't ask for her number. Didn't try to force a story that wasn't ready. But I walked home that evening with a peace I hadn't felt in years. Not because I had someone new, but because, for the first time, I felt like me again. Not Evan the husband. Not Evan the betrayed. Just Evan. And that felt enough. It's been almost a year now. Sometimes, I still wake up expecting to hear her beside me. The rustle of sheets, the familiar hum she used to make before opening her eyes. But then I remember, that chapter is closed. Permanently. And I'm not mourning it anymore. I never heard from Jenna again after that coffee shop meeting. No late-night calls. No desperate messages. She faded out of my life the same way she drifted away from our marriage, slowly, then all at once. People sometimes ask if I've forgiven her. Here's the truth. Forgiveness isn't about excusing what someone did. It's about letting go of what they no longer have power over. So yes, in my own way, I've forgiven her. But no, I don't want her back. And I never will. My life looks different now. I moved to a new apartment across town, smaller, cozier, with a second-hand couch and bookshelves I built myself. I started volunteering on weekends, coaching soccer at a youth center. Not to be noble, just to feel useful again. And Arya? We still talk. Sometimes over coffee. Sometimes during slow walks around the lake. She knows my story, not all of it, but enough. And she never tries to fix me. She just listens. Maybe someday something will grow from that. Or maybe not. Either way, I'm okay. Because this story, my story, isn't about revenge. It's about rebuilding. Brick by brick. After someone tried to knock it all down. The moral? Infidelity doesn't just break hearts. It breaks identity. It shatters trust not just in others, but in yourself. But healing isn't about forgetting what they did. It's about remembering who you were before they broke you. And slowly, fiercely, becoming someone even stronger after. So if you're listening to this wondering if you'll ever feel whole again, you will. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one quiet morning, you'll wake up and realize you survived. And that's where the real story begins. If this story meant something to you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more true stories of healing, survival, and truth. You're not alone.